Hi, and welcome to Produce Talks, the CPMA podcast. I am your host and CPMA Education Manager, Jason Gorley. Before we get started, we have a quick word about Produce Essentials. All right, so rather than having me tell you all about Produce Essentials and how great it is, I thought we would touch base with some of the people that helped put us together. And on the phone, I have Christina. Christina, maybe you could introduce yourself?
Christina Goodall. I am the branch manager at NFI in the Toronto division.
Christina, how and why did you get involved with the Produce Essentials project?
Jason, you and I connected in 2015 with regards to the Passion for Produce program. I'm actually, as you know, a Passion for Produce alumni. I was in the program in 2016, and since completing that program, you and I have stayed connected and been bouncing ideas off each other. And I chose to volunteer my time and experience to support and aid in the development of individuals who are relatively new to the produce industry.
Do you think that this type of training being available, is it a benefit for industry, individuals?
Simply put, I think any type of education and training is a value add for new emerging talent and the industry overall. The content of Produce Essentials is relevant. It has global relevancy and value. Along with the other numerous training and education modules that the CPMA offers, the training is unique in the sense that there's not a lot of training out there that is both as focused and at the same time well-rounded as Produce Essentials. So I think to an individual, it's an opportunity to accelerate your professional development outside of your immediate employment role within the industry. And to the industry overall, it's an investment in empowering emerging talent with knowledge and understanding.
So who specifically would you recommend Produce Essentials to?
I'd recommend it to any individual that's looking to take the next step in their produce career and focus on their development, their knowledge, and their understanding as the industry overall. It's a pretty diverse network and wide-spanning industry, so anyone that's looking to take that next step.
And so what value do you think a company gets out of investing in this type of training for their employees?
Knowledge is power, and the Produce Essentials credential is a reasonable investment in an employee's development and education. If you're looking for return on investment, you hit the nail on the head.
And Selena is here to tell us all about this month's Fresh Health Award winner.
Hi Jason, thanks for having me again. I'm really excited to let you know that the April Fresh Health Award winner was the BC Produce Marketing Association. This is our big Fresh Health Award that's presented at our annual convention and trade show that just happened in Vancouver. BCPMA has been a great supporter of Have Your Plate and Fredgie. We look at their Healthy Chef Dinner, which has lots of Have Your Plate elements to it. As well, they've taken on the Fredgie Chef for a Day activities out in Vancouver. You can see Have Your Plate on the BCPMA website along with their social media. Congrats to the team at the BC Produce Marketing Association. If you'd like to nominate someone for a Fresh Health Award, simply email me at skarkash@cpma.ca and check out haveyourplate.ca to see previous winners.
Thanks, Lena.
Thanks, Jason.
Now, this episode, we're picking up on the social media conversation with our panel once again. This time, the conversation revolves around some key points for any business. How are produce companies looking at their return on investment when it comes to social media? Our panel shares some thoughts on best practices and shares some examples of companies outside of produce who are great examples to learn from. So please welcome Kathy Gomez from Mark On Cooperative, Inc., Heather Klein from Peak of the Market, Kara Bader from Nature Fresh Farms, Yumiko Hayashi from Fresh Point, Vancouver. Here we go! The blessing and the curse with social media is that it has made connecting with companies and talking about their products all that more accessible. So, does your company have standard rules for monitoring and responding to social media? And are there protocols for handling negative or what can be considered backlash from followers versus what would happen in mainstream media or with a person contacting the company directly?
We do have our own social media guidelines in terms of responses. When we do get something that is negative, we do thank them for their comment, and then usually we try to take the discussion offline and email them or have them, give give them our contact information directly so that they can reach out to us. So it's not just this person behind a computer that you're just going back and forth on social media. We give them a number, an email that they can go ahead and contact someone at the company because we value their feedback. And we try to take it offline and determine what their concerns are and do it that way just so that we're having that one-on-one interaction with them. And it also makes it go from like this public figure to, I'm actually talking to a person at this company who happened to see this random post I put and they're addressing it. And I think it sometimes they're taken aback, like, wait a minute, so this person's contacting me, and we're going to get someone to call you. And when we call them, you'd be surprised that they're surprised that someone has actually picked up the phone and given them a call.
Kara, what about you at Nature Fresh? How do you guys deal with either just negative feedback, or have you ever run into trolls that just want to make a negative conversation happen on your site?
We definitely have. I think that's kind of par for the course, really, on social media in many regards. Our protocol really is to just, a lot of the trolls, honestly, if it's evidently a troll, we'll honestly probably not even acknowledge it just because we don't want to feed into it. But if it's a genuine concern or negative feedback, I think our protocol is really just to answer honestly and give them the time that they deserve. No one really wants to feel unheard or wants to feel like a company's taking advantage of them. And by taking the time to, just listen and help them through this and try to find a way to improve it going forward, it showcases our company's values again. And I think that's really the most important thing, is just taking the time to listen and have that conversation and not shutting out and disregarding it.
So Heather, I'll switch over to you for your thoughts and just kind of how important is it for a company to kind of try to be proactive and think ahead to possible conversations that might happen? And maybe have those discussions before they actually hit the webpage?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have definite responses for certain things that, are kind of general. I found a bad potato in my bag. I'm really mad at you. As both Kathy and Kara said, try to listen. And people mostly just want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged. And they want their opinions respected. And when things are more serious, we absolutely try to do a connection one-on-one offline. We find the personal approach is generally the easiest way to rectify a situation.
Miko, with FreshPoint, is it something similar where it's listening and acknowledging whatever the issue is with the particular consumer or customer?
Definitely. I think as of now, we're really proud of the fact that we've been able to respond to all of our messages, whether they're private or public or retweets, all that kind of stuff. I think people just want to be heard. And with us also, because we are a distributor, we get all kinds of messages. So sometimes people want to know where they can find a product that we're talking about, or they have comments about a driver on the road, whether it's positive or negative. So there are a lot of different inquiries, I guess we call them, that we get. And yeah, as of now, we're really proud of the fact that we've been able to listen and reach out to those people. And with FreshPoint, because we have so many locations across North America, we do have guidelines that we all have to follow, and we do have calls weekly regarding our social media plan. So that's sort of...
Well, that kind of goes to my next question. I'm going to throw this to the group, see if anybody wants to chime in with an answer. So rules regarding content and interactions. I'm wondering about if anybody has examples of, is there ever still kind of internal backlash about, time, resources, content, or has that all been kind of defined, or is it a situation that's consistently evolving?
For us, in the beginning of social media and justifying spending the money on it, I think there was initially, you had to prove it to the board every time that it was worth it. I think just because of the awareness in our community, I think they get it now and support it 100%. It's hard to calculate ROI, or return on investment, right? And different people have different strategies to do that. We kind of count followers and, likes and retweets and just awareness as how well we're doing with social media.
Yeah, I have to agree with her. I think initially, we probably all felt that when you first got into social media and dabbling into it, it was those conversations. Is this a good resource? Is this a good use of our time? And I think as the years have gone by, there's no longer those conversations. It's just something that everybody does now.
And now it's time to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, Nature Fresh Farms.
Hello everyone, it's Ray here once again from Nature Fresh Farms. And with the new growing season now in full swing, there's lots of fresh news to share with our industry partners, retailers, and consumers. And one of the best ways to keep everyone up to date on our greenhouse affairs is through social media. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn to see stories highlighting our new plants, recipe ideas, dedicated team members, and educational events. You can also check us out at naturefresh.ca to learn more on how we grow.
Thanks, Ray. And now back to the conversation. Perfect. So that slips into our next question, which I think, Heather, you've already alluded to a bit, but maybe you could speak to it a bit more. But how do you measure return on the investment that companies are putting on social media? How does social media efforts help sell more product and increase consumption of produce?
I think it is brand thinking about vegetables all the time. And if that's, you're thinking about making pepper, I throw out a recipe for you that is all about carrots. And hopefully you'll go to the grocery store and buy a piece of the market carrots. And so for us, it's just always keeping your mind focused on vegetables.
Piggybacking on that, it is the awareness, giving people education in produce. I just recently actually read an article in the Vancouver Sun. There was a national survey, and I think it was something like almost 50% of people in BC under the age of 35 were practicing a vegetarian or vegan diet. So I think people out there really want to know more about the fruits and vegetables that they're consuming.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's more about the conversations that are being had and that social media really enables you to have. When you start seeing people really engaged and consumers following every post you output, and they're starting to answer questions that other consumers are asking before we even have a chance to answer. And they're starting to request, where they can find our products and noting that they drive out of their way to purchase from certain brands. And they're starting to ask questions about how it's grown and getting more involved in that conversation. I think we're creating consumers who are more educated and who understand the value behind fresh produce. And I think that's really one of the main values behind social media. And that's one of our KPIs, is to measure the engagement every day that we have in those valuable conversations.
Kathy, is that where the investment comes back to you at Marcon? Is it with the interaction that you get to have with consumers on social media and customers?
Yeah, I think you really can't measure, case sales-wise. I don't think you can really use social media as a metric for that. But we do have our own internal goals where we monitor and see what's our level of engagement, which one of our platforms are performing well. And it kind of gives us a sense of where our consumers are finding more value. We tend to see more high traffic on our live from the field videos, and I think it's just that videos tend to go over really well with consumers. So what we do is try to promote beyond YouTube, and we'll also make sure that we hit it on Facebook and Twitter. But I also feel that, the more conversations that you have with social media about produce, it's positive. You're trying to use that as a platform to promote that passion for produce, different ways to use it, to incorporate it. And even if you're not a vegan or vegetarian, it's just to extol the benefits of why you should be adding, half to your plate of veggies or fruits. And I think there's so much more that we are going to do in the future, even including Snapchat. I could see that being a huge vehicle to communicate, especially now you'll see the younger generation is more prone to using Snapchat than I would say Facebook. And then it's just like, how do we as a produce company utilize this as a tool to further engage with those consumers?
I think you've already given us one best practice there, in that your strategy has to be continually evolving to meet changing demographics and the different platforms that are being used there. But Kathy, I'd like to offer you up a chance to, are there any other things that you would consider best practices that you think that anybody listening to this podcast should think about incorporating with their social media strategy?
The most important thing is to stay true to your voice. And if you don't know what that voice is in terms of a company, that's something that you should probably sit down and determine, what it is that you're going to resonate, whether it's a passion for produce, or in our case, we try to, kind of resonate that people matter to Marcon. And with that is the promotion of produce, because it creates a healthy lifestyle, and we try to promote, everyone involved that touches produce, from the field to arriving at the customer kitchen and the chef, just to show that the community that's involved in getting produce out to each individual. And, you need to determine that voice, because let's say, look at Wendy's and their Twitter, they're good at that clapback. That's their voice, where they're able to just, shoot that little comment back, to their followers. And that's what they're known for. That's their voice. Whereas produce, that's probably not the voice you're looking for. You want to be more of a personal approach versus, maybe having some type of negativity with humor. So I think that's really important when you're starting your social media platform.
Really the best practice that I would suggest is to really just take the time to understand your audience and to remain consistent in that messaging. Delve into the analytics regularly and see what type of posts are resonating with people. Social media really has two components. It's talking and it's listening. If you're not taking that time to understand what your audience is interested in, you're really just talking. And we all know that there's more than enough messages being thrown at all of us every single day. And so I think the listening component is really key. And once you understand your audience, you can really begin to then tailor your messages towards them and have those valuable conversations.
For us, it's consistency in the brand, the theme, our voice. And yeah, again, I think I would say engagement. Continue to listen, continue to provide to the community, listen, give more, and try to inspire.
Well, I pretty much have to agree with everyone else. We try to have a consistent message and engage and interact. I think it's kind of key. Once you've got people engaged, it's really important to keep the conversation going with them.
I'm going to let everybody give any last thoughts they want to give in a second. But just before we get to that, I think it's really important to realize that if we're only looking at other produce companies, we may be missing really valuable lessons to learn from. So I want to give you an opportunity, if you've noticed any non-produce companies that you think they get social media right. So are there other companies that produce companies can look to as an example of best practice for any platform, really? And Heather, why don't we start with you first?
I saw that question and started perusing through social media, and I came up with a couple that I really liked. One was Oreo. They have awesome graphics. I wish I could be so good. And they stay like they're right in the times. If there's something going on in the news, they nab a graphic that relates directly to it, and they're just so in the now. And I love seeing what they connect to. And the other one was Staples, and they just write really relevant content that's just really interesting. We're all in business, and we all need help. And they just write really interesting stuff that anyone could benefit from without needing to go buy a pen.
Not two examples I would have thought of. Yumiko.
I don't know if I can give you specific company names, but I do tend to really gravitate towards the bigger companies that sort of show a more personal side of the culture. So whether it's like specific team members or if it's just a general department, I like seeing sort of real pictures of something from a snapshot from the iPhone, say, of the people that work at these big companies.
I would have to agree with that too. I like the lifestyle and the values. Personally, I'm also a fan of GoPro, actually. They really build their social media around a concept that they call family. It's, join the GoPro family. And I think that's pretty cool. They recognize and they share the posts of their consumers and really makes everyone feel heard and feel part of something larger. And I think that's really captivating.
The one that I was on there because I was actually looking for something with Home Depot. I like that they keep true to kind of their purpose, like who they're looking for, the doers. So everything they promote is kind of we as individuals being able to accomplish a task on our own, and talking to that. But they also promote, like there was one post that they had, which you're kind of like, it's random, but it shows you that it's more than just doing, it's about the people. And where they highlighted, Meredith, who was having like a hard day and had this random act of kindness from a stranger, which isn't something that you typically see on a Home Depot post, but they do things like that to also bring in the human element. And I think they go from, here you have this corporate, kind of like hard, cold, you're building, but then you also have this human element brought into it. And I think that's kind of that line you need to toe, where you can't just be functional. You also have to have your humanity within what you're doing as a company.
And just any last comments on where you think companies need to look to, specifically produce companies with social media, or, where you think in the next 5 years, well, let's not even say 5, let's say year and a half.
Yeah, I feel like, or we've all touched upon it, you do just need to continue those conversations and not just have a bunch of posting for posting's sake. I think you really need to be intentful on what it is you're posting and trying to convey and what you're trying to provoke in a consumer. And I also feel like we're going to see a lot more use of Snapchat. I think companies are delving into it to have that conversation, and I think it shows a lot of opportunities for us in produce, like Emiko says, just going out into the warehouse and being able to snap that truck going out or anything like that. Being able to do that in, a 5-second post that goes out there on Snapchat, it's a huge opportunity. I just think that as a produce company, we need to take a look and see, like, how do we incorporate that into our social media platforms and engage with that younger audience so that they can also benefit from produce. There's that conversation to be had.
Yeah, I think at the beginning, before, actually, when I started at FreshPoint, we had no social media, and I really had to make a push for it. And I think those sort of skeptics at the time are true believers now. And one of the really cool things about our social media was that our HR manager, whenever she has a new hire, she's busy, she always tells them, hey, sit here and read their Instagram page or have a look at their at some of the videos. And so it's almost kind of become a training tool for us. And for new platforms and stuff, I think we're starting to look at Instagram stories as something that could really benefit. Again, piggybacking on that idea of being able to go into the warehouse, and also I've been on a few field tours recently, and I mean, even I've been in the industry for a few years now, but I still find it really fascinating and learning a lot doing them. So yeah, I think it's just growing and growing, and I think the more tools we have, the more opportunities there are.
In a year and a half, I think there will be platforms that we haven't even heard of now. And we just really need to be open to adapt and change and take on new things and just kind of go with the flow with social media, because it is ever changing. And like you said, 10 years ago, I think there was just Facebook. And now we have so much more at our fingertips to utilize. So I can't wait to see what else is out there.
I think education is going to be continuing to be more of a crucial component, but I also believe that we're going to have to find ways to take our messaging and condensed it. Some of our best posts have been just a 2-second or 3-second ad getting the message across. And I think with all of the messages that are continuing being thrown at people every day, I really think that you're going to have to find ways to get your message across in less, and that will become more and more impactful over time.
Yeah, you know what? I was just going to add that in terms of where we're going, I think there's going to be that continued push to get to know the grower. I see that prevalent amongst many of the produce social media is get to know who the grower is, get to know who the people are packing that box, harvesting, the truck driver, and I just see that continuing to grow, continue to be more videos, and just have that more, that open discussion on who it is along the chain that is growing your product, because I think it's a good way to combat local. There's so many customers wanting only local produce, but it's Michigan, negative 30 degrees. You're not going to get lettuce. So letting them know, like, these aren't big growers. These are actually growers that have been growing, they're 3 generations growing and telling their story. I think that's going to be huge to what we do on social media and gives us an opportunity to promote that we wouldn't have that vehicle. If we didn't have social media, we couldn't tell that story, let's say 10 years ago. But now we're able to go in there and let them know and meet Maria, who's, picking lettuce that day, and introduce them to her, so there's more of that emotional aspect.
All right, that's it. That's all that we have for you this month on Produce Talks. I want to thank my guests, Kathy, Heather, Kara, and Yumiko, for sharing their knowledge and being part of the conversation. I want to thank Ray and Nature Fresh Farms for sponsoring our podcast. Your continued support is very much appreciated. I want to thank Selena for telling us all about this month's Fresh Health Award winner. Remember, we want to hear from you. You can email us by emailing podcast@cpma.ca. That's podcast@cpma.ca. And until next time, remember to continue to seek out new knowledge, to gain new skills, and to basically never stop growing.